Hey, everybody, welcome. So I want to kick us off today by just introducing myself and Radical Support Collective. So RSC is a team of, it's the three of us. It's myself, Jess Sarante, and I live in Brooklyn, New York. Seth Bush, who was just talking to you, who's in Pittsburgh, and Anastasia Shumkis, who's in Seattle, Washington. And the three of us, well, first of all, we're just so darn happy to have you all here. This is something we've been really looking forward to so much this summer. So it feels really, it's exciting and even a little nerve-wracking, admittedly, to be here with all of you jumping into this conversation. Our mission as Radical Support Collective is to support people who are giving their lives to creating a world that is just and life-sustaining, and supporting these folks to have the tools and skills that they need to navigate the climate crisis, as well as other crises that our world is facing, with ease and joy, so that you can all be present to, can be creative and consistently present to possibility. And this is such an important point for us, that we really believe that even in the midst of the remarkable challenges that we're facing as a country and as a world, especially in this moment, that possibility is always present. And we want to orient to that so that it can come forth, so that we can really create the change that we're here to create. And our team does this through one-on-one coaching, through group coaching, through programs like this, like Radical Support Circles. And we'll tell you a little bit more at the end of our program today about how you can get involved with some of the things that we're offering. But actually, before we carry on, I want to just invite you all to join me in a moment of acknowledgement, because today, as we all know, is September 11th. And it's the 19th anniversary of a day that very much changed history and changed the lives of many. And so to acknowledge those whose lives were lost today, and who lost those that they love, the countries and families ravaged by the wars that came in the aftermath of the attacks on 9/11. And also just to acknowledge that as we are here having this conversation today, there are wildfires raging, there is a pandemic unfolding. So there's really just so much, there's so much pain that we're present to. So I just want to take a second to just acknowledge all of this. And I'll give us just 30 seconds to sit in silence in prayer or recognition, whatever resonates with you. And then we will carry on. Thank you all. Thanks for that. It felt really important for us to start today with this, especially because of the topic of our conversation, which is so much about looking into the face and telling the truth of what's happening in our world, and still showing up in the ways that are most important to us so that we can make a contribution. And this is, brings me to our purpose for Radical Support Circles, which is for us to come together in community and explore questions about how to live in such a way that we can create the life-sustaining future that we all know is possible. There is a guiding question that we've been thinking about a lot, or a quote rather, that we've been thinking about a lot. Seth, do we have that on a slide? So you may have seen this quote if you read any Rainer Maria Rilke. This is from Letters to a Young Poet. And I'll just read the last little bit of it, because it really drives home the point of how we are thinking about the questions that we bring to Radical Support Circles. Do not now seek the answers which cannot be given to you, because you would not be able to live them. And the point is to live everything. Live the questions now. perhaps you will then gradually, without noticing it, live along some distant day into the answer. And so I wanted to share this with you all today to kick us off, because in this circle today and in all the ones to come, we're going to be asking some big questions that are on our hearts about what it means to be a change maker in the world today, to sustain ourselves, to orient to possibility, to be in integrity and authenticity as we act for the world that we want. And these are not questions that just have like a black and white answer, right? These are questions to live. And so we hope today, as we're in this conversation, that that you'll engage with this question in this way, as something that you can live and sit with and continue to dialogue with even beyond our conversation today. So with that, I want to introduce our amazing guest today, Beth Ann Suggs. And Beth Ann is the Dean of Students at the Academy for Coaching Excellence, which is the school that Seth, Anastasia, and I, as well as many other people on this call today, have done our coach training. She's also a Unity minister and a longtime mentor of our team. So it's just it's a complete honor and privilege to have Beth Ann on the line today, having this conversation with us. Yeah. Well, so Beth Ann, I'm hoping you can kick us off by telling everybody who you are, and particularly what are the possibilities that you're seeing in this moment that has you wake up every day and do the work that you do?
That's the greatest question that you have ever asked me. Because first of all, I am Beth Ann, and as Jess already said, what I do. And then there's who I am and what I have come into my life experience for. And I am one of the things that has landed for me that wakes me up right now every day is discovering the question that I've never asked myself for the first 75 years. I'm that old. For the first 75 years, the question was, I'm biracial, and my question was, am I white or am I black? As though that was the most important question there was for me. And now the question is, I know I'm biracial, and that has changed everything for me. So I'm not waking up in the morning going, oh God, I'm still trying to answer that question after 75 years, rather than living into what is so and appreciating it and learning from it. Does that kind of answer the question? What I bring to why I said yes to this invitation, so that it's not so much about me being a dean of students as much as it is about me being in my own internal racism and now living out of something bigger than that. So, that answer it? Yeah. That's my answer.
And is Beth Ann cutting out for anyone else, or is it my service? A little bit. Yeah,
Let me plug in and see if that helps.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, I just missed a couple words. I trust that you answered the question, but I didn't. I wasn't able to hear absolutely everything that you said.
Oh, hang on.
We'll figure it out.
I think right now the biggest challenge we have is the number of people that are using Zoom in the world. So thanks for letting me know. Good. Better?
Okay.
It's much better. Thank you, Beth Ann.
Great.
My joy.
Okay. So then, Beth Ann, I'd love to ask you to introduce your question. So just so everybody knows, when we invited Beth Ann to come on and join us today, I asked her, what question would you want to explore with everybody? And so we crafted this, and I would love for you to just introduce it to folks and tell us why this is something that you wanted to explore with the group.
Thank you. So in talking with Jess, we came up with this question that you see on the screen. How do I find the spiritual fortitude to take compassionate and loving action when there's so much hatred in the world around me? That's a huge question. And one of the reasons that I love that we came to that, and as I've been really thinking about it for the last couple of weeks, I asked myself, what really is spiritual fortitude? You know, it's sort of like, here's this incredible thing that we say, but what do we mean when we're talking about that? And I wrote down for myself that it's a confidence that someone has sufficient spiritual resources to face and grow in the face of conflict. Can I say that again? Okay. It's having confidence that you and everyone else in the world has the spiritual resources to face and grow from the conflict in the world. And I think that for me, what excited me about listening to what I was thinking about it was, my goodness, one of the biggest dilemmas that we face is, how can I possibly bring something great to the experience that we're having in life? And it's looking in the inner resources. So that's what stirred me, and it's actually what my journey is about. What are my true innate spiritual resources that I can bring to my journey?
Yes.
Yeah.
I love the framing of bringing something great to this moment. Like, both can be true, right? That
Yes.
is, yeah, that it can be true that we are in the midst of so much upheaval and pain and all of it. I don't need to name it all. You all know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And in the midst of it, bring something great to the world.
Yeah. And also seeing that in the midst of the pain and suffering is the possibility for a great. So just kind of part of what I've always agreed to and love about the journey is, there's always going to be an experience of the old breaking down. Yeah, we agree? And the secret to it is, how do I want to be in the breaking down in order for its purpose is a breakthrough? And do I want to be about the breakdown and ain't it awful, or we have the choice to be about the breakthrough? And that's one of the greatest, like, oh yeah, let's get behind what can be. And I look out and in my generation, it's all about returning to what was. Let's get back to normal. Who the hell wants to get back to normal, as though normal is the place to be? And what we're looking to do is, what's the new normal that can come out of this? What are we gaining from it? And we have the resources within ourselves to be with that question. So it's wonderful to look at it from what so is there is pain and suffering, and there's what would it be like? This is an odd way to look at it. What would it be like to not try to handle that or change that, but to transform that into a possibility for something greater? Do this if that makes sense to you. Again, good.
Yeah. Thank you.
Oh.
Okay, so good. So juicy. So this is the perfect segue into what we want to do next. So everybody, just so you know, kind of, you can track with us where we're headed over the course of the next hour plus. We're going to go into a little bit of a pair check-in today. So you're going to get a chance to meet someone new and connect. And then we're gonna do a little bit more of what we've just been doing. We're gonna shine the spotlight on Beth Ann, I'm gonna ask her a bunch of questions. We're gonna talk a little bit more about, kind of pull out some more of her brilliance and insight on this question that we're holding. And then we're gonna open it up to a big group discussion so that people can bring questions and thoughts, and we can really chew on this together as a group. So that's our plan for the rest of our time today. So Seth, are you ready to put people in breakouts? Awesome. So your question for the breakout is simply, what would you love to get from being here today? If you could walk away from our time together today with anything, what would you love to get? And we're gonna give you 6 minutes in your breakout. So you'll be with probably 2 people, definitely 2 people. Yeah, okay, great, 2 people. And you'll have 3 minutes each, and we'll give you a little notice to let you know at the halfway point when it's time to switch who is sharing. We are back. Hey everybody, welcome back. I would just love to hear from a couple people about if you want to share something that you saw for yourself, or something that was inspiring to you about what your buddy shared. Let's just hear from a couple folks about what it is that you'd love to get today.
I wanted to say that for the biggest thing I got out of what my buddy said is that we're living in the sense of emergency urgency, and that it might not always lead to the best answers of doing things, and how to ground ourselves. That really was that it's okay to step back and say, hey, maybe we do need to include more people before we taking certain steps. So that was a big eye opener. So thank you, Josh.
Awesome. Yeah, we often talk at RSC about the difference between acknowledging the urgency in what's happening in the world and being the urgency, like being the presence of that urgency, and just what the difference is between that. Thank you for saying that, Shauna. Who else would like to share? You can just jump in. Unmute yourself. Don't be shy. I know there were lots of brilliant things said in those conversations.
My buddy Camilla, I think, correct me if that is incorrect, shared wanting to help those around her in her community, friends, support them in finding that inner fortitude, and being able to kind of pass it along to others in your life when you're feeling pretty okay about where you are inner fortitude wise. How do you support the people you care about to find that as well?
Yes.
I thought that was beautiful.
Great.
A great question. Thank you. Let's just get one more. These are so good.
Yes, I would like to share mine. Just give me a quick minute to get my thing up on, because it's rather succinct once I look at it. So basically, I'm going to choose the take 2 part, but it's a larger part of my Facebook post. Unless we have like time for a little longer.
Just share the quick bottom line of it, Heidi.
The quick version would be great right now, Heidi. Thank you.
All right. So how can we be compassionate and establish a dialogue with someone who is so opposed to you and the worldview of peace, who's like a hate mongerer, and an illegitimate oligarch who stands totally against climate change? And so that we can have a chance to have world peace.
Mm-hmm. That is the question. Thank you, Heidi.
Probably the biggest question that's been around for a lot of years.
Yeah. So with that, I want to turn back to Beth Ann and ask you, Beth Ann, if you'll start by just tell us what you're learning about this question, this big,
Yeah.
juicy, open question about having spiritual fortitude to take compassionate action when the world, especially when it comes to working for racial justice in our world when there's so much hate.
And so many pieces, moving pieces to that whole idea. It's for me, what I'm learning is the most important part of this experience is seeing what is already innately in everybody, including those who are terrified. You know, people are afraid, and hatred. When I look at hatred is just like what fear at its worst looks like. And what is that? You know, like, I don't know who I am, and who I am and who I'm about is more important because that has value, as though anything that we've come into the world with is what has value. But spiritual resources are that which is common to every single person. And that's I'm going to use the metaphor, the new normal is all about the value of everyone, rather than this is more valuable, this person is more valuable, this earning money is more valuable, whatever it is, and knowing first and foremost that the value is already there, and it just isn't being demonstrated, and is the journey we're on right now is the opportunity for everybody to be enrolled in who they really are, so that we create what I like the metaphor new normal is about what we share and where we're the same, rather than how are we different from each other. And let's see who is right about what different I am is righter than the different that you are. So that's that's the biggest learning that I am bringing to my own journey. As I was saying to the team, the question in my life is more about what is right rather than who is right. And one of the conflicts that we see is it's always about I'm right, I'm right, I'm right, I'm right. Anybody love to be right? You know, raise your hand. Yeah, I love being right. Whether my right is wrong is not important. And the possibility and the shift that I see occurring is for the first time, there's more dedication and energy to what is right. Whether we're talking about our relationship with the planet or talking about our relationship with each other, it now is what is right, and who is right has been the kind of the historical, you know, that's been the way we've been operating in the world, and it's part of the growth of the human being is, okay, how am I right? And the question now is, how am I right in terms of what is right? Does that make sense? I don't know, because I'm articulating it really for the first time in my own journey. It's like, okay, what is right is creating something that we're designed to create, rather than trying to hold on to where we're comfortable and safe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I'm
I
learning
have,
that.
The question I have hearing you say that, Beth Ann, is like, as change makers, right? Everybody here is in some way giving their lives to trying to create the transformation,
Yes,
in the world. And I can feel in my body the difference when you ask the question, what is right versus who is right? But it's so subtle. I'm wondering if you could speak a little more to like, why make that shift? What difference can that make for us? Like, how can we use that towards the change that we want to be creating, shifting the question in that way?
This is what comes right to my mind when I hear that, is looking at what do we really mean when we talk about compassion and love in action. You know, because everybody who's about I am right thinks that they are being love in action because they're doing what they see is right. And the real game is how can I be taking actions that are based on what is right, so that I'm not in my arrogance of how right I am and how scary it is to give up that I am right and to begin to be more interested in what is right. For me, the fundamental common denominator, and this is something that I saw, I was looked up a different definition of compassion. And here's one that really just, oh, it's like, yeah, this is really true. Here's compassion. Compassion focuses itself on the potential of all people have for good. So you see,
Can you say that again?
yeah,
So good.
it focuses itself on the potential of all people have for good. For listen, everybody in the world is learning how to access the very best of them. And everybody in the world, every human being, has good at their core. And we have an agreement about that. The problem is, some of us know that, and some of us are asleep to it. And as change makers, what's important is how might we wake up those who are not yet awake to the deep longing for what is right in the world. I loved Heidi bringing world peace into it. It's like, we cannot get to world peace out of the way we've been operating for the last 400 years, more than that. So there's another way, and it has to be out of what's already there, and that is the desire to make a difference. And good is all about taking everything that comes our way and seeking what is the possibility there, what is the good there, what is the right that is there, and how might I show up in a way that brings that forward. It's like, for a long time, the way I talked about this was, my whole purpose in life was to, in my presence, people experience me bringing out the best in them, not for my sake, but for their sake. So that a lot of us really understand this, but it's like, if you were faced with someone who it's not awake to the possibility and the potential of who they are, how do I need to be so that they see that I'm inviting not their opinion, but I'm inviting their heart. I'm inviting the experience of love in action, if you will. So compassion is absolutely looking into the eyes of everyone and seeing in their heart, whether they know it or not, that in their heart there is good waiting to emerge and be out in the world, so that we're creating a new norm. Does that make sense the way I'm saying that? Because there's something incredible ready to emerge, and it feels like the first time everybody is in it. Here we are in a world in which no one is left out of the suffering, if you will, that we are in. And for the first time, we're all looking for an answer to how can we come through this, not to go back to what was, but to move in the direction of what can be. One of the greatest learnings I have from Zoe Toby that some of us know really well. And one of my greatest conversations with Zoe was always about what can be. We know what's been, We know what is, but what about what can be? Because what can be is a result of what is now. And compassion is focusing on the fact that we are suffering because we are not yet bringing who it is, the good in us. We're not yet bringing that out here into the world where it can make a difference. You see, so it's already there, and hate is because we don't see it in each other. You know what? If you don't see that that's true with everyone, then you will see what is wrong with everyone. Rather than sitting there right before our very eyes is what is right about everyone and how do we wake them up. And for me, social change is all about waking up to what's really there. I'm a product, if you will, of the back in the 60s. The first social change book that I ever had contact with when I was in training to become a unity minister was the 100th monkey phenomenon. And I don't know if you know that, but I'll just, don't. Oh, you're gonna love this. Oh, you're gonna love this. This is here's the story. Whether it's true or myth, I don't know, but I know it relates directly to social change. There's an island of monkeys, and the people on the island were throwing sweet potatoes down onto the beach for them to eat. And every day the monkeys all over the islands would go down, pick up a sweet potato and eat it, and then spit out the sand, right? One day, one monkey went down to the beach, picked up the sweet potato, washed it off in the ocean, and ate it, and it was sweet. And out of that monkey taught everybody on the island that this is what is right. Use this, go down, wash it off. The phenomenon was, without any learning or teaching, all of a sudden, there was a critical mass of that behavior, and monkeys on islands all over started doing it. And so critical mass is what creates social change. Because you see, it started with this one monkey who got tired, got poo, didn't like sand, figured out what was the right thing to do to have the good that the sweet potato was, taught everybody else how to do it, like, hey, this is how you do this. And then all of a sudden, and the theory is there were 100 monkeys that were doing it, and then thousands of monkeys began to do it without having to be taught. That's social change.
Oof.
Great.
So, okay, I got another question for you that I imagine some other people here would be asking, and I want to invite you to answer it, and then we're just going to open it up to the group to just start jumping in. The question that's coming to mind for me is, like, I'm looking at this word in the question, spiritual fortitude. Like, the things that we're talking about here feel so right, and they're so beautiful. And then you're in the face of someone who's saying horrible, hateful things, who is doing things that are antithetical to the world that you know is possible, that are antithetical to what you want to believe is true about who they are. And it's a whole other ball game all of a sudden. So, like, I want to be that 100th monkey. I trust that the rest of you want to be that 100th monkey. But what is their, I want to hear just a little more about, but how? That's my question.
Yeah,
but how,
exactly.
Coach? But how?
The how is first being willing to see that 100th monkey is possible. And that it is in you, and therefore it's there for everyone. And compassion itself is in the presence of the kinds of pain and suffering that we have right now in the world. I have to choose for myself, out of my spiritual fortitude, of my, my resources of who I am. How might I interact with this from compassion, that I know there's good here. I know that there's possibility here, and I know that it's an opportunity for what is right to be supported. And so when you're present to that, your actions absolutely flow out of that.
Mm-hmm.
And coming out of the civil rights, Dr. King's time, which changed my life in the aspect of myself that is Black, and it was like, why does he keep on saying, see what's possible in the other person that hates your guts? That residing in that person who hates your guts so much, hates everything about you, you see that that person has already within them the possibility and the truth about what's right. And my job is to invite that out, so that my actions are not about, you are an asshole and you are wrong and I am right, and what is wrong with you? How do I take action that invite people who are not in touch with what is right? How do I take actions that they become curious about that, so that when I'm standing in the face of racism or standing in the face of climate change, I'm not standing in it being, oh, isn't this awful? I'm standing in front of it, scared, worried, frantic, and how might I take actions and show other people how to take actions that are that read and act out of what is right. And that's the real name of the game, because everything that occurs in humankind is a calling, if you will, from something deep within us that says, you're up to this, and it's time to demonstrate it. The best metaphor, which Heidi pointed to, is world peace. And it would be like, what would it be like to live in a world where there really was peace? Peace meaning everyone is valued. One of the ways that we talk about it in our coaching work is, what would it be like to be a member of a world in which everyone is supported 100% and no one is left out? And I think that's closer to the question that we're needing to answer now. And we can do that with compassion. Of course, everybody really wants that, whether they know it or not. And our actions must be there, because compassion doesn't mean, oh, it's all okay, own. No, action means that I'm taking action out of what I know to be true about this situation, the truth. That's what's possible. I think I answered.
Good stuff.
Okay, good.
Oh, thank you
Oh,
so
God.
much. Yeah.
And I want to read, let me close with the Martin Luther King quote that I sent to you guys early this morning when we were preparing. Because this is what I realized was the biggest influence out of that generation. And what he said was this: the ultimate measurement of a person is not where they stand in moments of comfort and confidence, but where they stand at times of challenge and controversy. You know how we stand on what's right when we're comfortable and convenient, and it's learning how to stand on that in conflict and challenge.
Oof.
Oof.
Perfect.
Thanks.
Oh man. Okay. So I'm noticing the chat's been going. People are making connections. I'm seeing lots of
Great.
sparkle hands. So I want to just open it up for folks to share whatever it is that's alive for you now. What are you resonating with? What are you chewing on? And maybe the first person can jump in, and then we can, if folks can raise their digital hand, that way we can organize the sharing. Please jump in.
I'm happy to go.
Yeah, thanks, Meg.
I'm just so appreciating even that last quote that you were sharing, Beth Ann, about how we can be amid conflict and controversy, and just having the heart of compassion, seeing that this person has the capacity to show up in a way that is loving and kind and supportive of a greater whole. And what's really alive for me right now, my partner and I are figuring out if we're going to make a move or not from Sacramento back east. And one of my dear friends is building a co-housing community. And that feels, even if we don't end up there, that really kind of is like this embodiment of this compassion action, where she is just, she and her partner are creating a community where anyone's like welcome to buy into it. It's not like a chosen select few. It's like they're creating a new model of how people can be with each other, especially amid conflict and controversy. And so that was kind of what was bubbling up for me, is like, wow, there are some really interesting ways that we can recreate even just the structures that support us to be in community with each other, especially with people who we might disagree with sometimes.
Yes.
So thank you for that.
Thanks, Meg. Anthony.
Thanks. Hi, everybody. I wanted to just uplift the without having to be taught portion of the 100th Monkey story. For me, that really stood out. It really resonates with my position against like mass movement approaches to things and dictating how others need to engage. I feel like that is so often a sticking point when working with folks towards change or embodiment, is that for me, it's so much more about the small tangible scale of like me and maybe my crew. And that leaves a lot more room for empathy and autonomy and choice, which really leads to a more empowered position of change. So that just that mention within the story sort of buzzed all these words that I work towards embodiment in my own actions. There goes the garbage man. So yeah, thanks for that, and thanks for hearing it.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
There's something very powerful about the idea of critical mass, because we've created the world we're in right now out of a critical mass of thought and ways of being. And so we know that critical mass does create. The question is, what is the critical mass that we are, so that that continues, the principle continues on, but it gets a different result.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Shayna.
Hi.
Shana?
Yeah, Shauna.
Thank you.
I was thinking that in a way the 100th monkey, that's about like that critical mass part, because it's not about the first monkey. We already have had the first monkey because we have all these principles at our disposal. So what came to me was the metaphor of dominoes. All right, and each one of us are dominoes, and my job is to do what I do, so I keep the dominoes going, rather than what the domino in front of me and the domino behind me job is. And that living that compassion and copying essentially that first monkey, that's my job. And And so that's more what it feels like. And it feels more doable than this, we have to harness this huge mass of thing. No, I got to do my thing in my everyday life with my everyday tasks and chores, and, you know, creating and working with other actions that we are doing, that we're already called to be doing, by looking at that compassion in ourselves and getting better and better and better at seeing others from that compassionate angle. And that's doable. So
Exactly.
yeah.
The thought I just had, based on what you just said, was like the common denominator of the monkeys was they all wanted to taste the sweetness of the sweet potato, but they had not yet seen that it was, one, possible to do it, and two, there was a way to do it. And yet they all wanted the same thing, because they all demonstrated, poo, 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 I don't like eating sand. It's great. Thanks. Good.
Thanks.
New learning for me.
I think something is, I think we get, at least for me, I was getting overwhelmed with everything that was going on, until what Shauna said is true. You do what you can in your space to affect change in your own space. And whether it's, you know, having an attitude of gratitude, really, to me, it's almost simplifying to the point of treating other people the way that you want to be treated. And it's really hard sometimes to see that in people. But I feel like, you know, my feeling is that everyone has good inside them. But like Beth Ann said, sometimes we just have to look for it a little bit harder. And we have to appreciate where they're coming from, because we all live different life experiences. And I think it's really important to understand that. I was so frustrated for a while, thinking, oh, I got to do this, I got to do this, I got to do this. But within our own little space, we can affect change within our own space, and not let everything overwhelm us, but do what we can do. And it's kind of like that. It's the critical mass thing, because things start, you know, then maybe somebody else will do it. And so, just like the monkeys. So, so that's kind of my thought on it.
Yeah. We could say that the monkey has passed the mantle to all of us to be the 100th monkey. You know, it's not, for me right now, it's not just that monkey. It's that finally we're in an experience in which each one of us steps up to that mission to be the 100th monkey. Mm-hmm. Not waiting for the 100th monkey to show up, but embrace and be willing to be the 100th monkey. That's what makes action occur. If not, it becomes just, oh, I know the 100th monkey is out there. Guess what? It's you. It's you. It's you.
Yes, I really appreciate that, just because so often I find, even though I talk about this all the time, I find I occasionally catch myself forgetting that it's me that I'm been waiting for.
Yes.
That it's my friends and my clients, and like waiting for something to happen that will shift things. And then, wow, it's like every time it's kind of a breathtaking moment to be like, oh shit.
I'm it.
We got to do it.
And there's
again,
a lot,
and again, right? Like,
yeah, exactly. And if we look around in the world right now, there's more presence of people being a part of it rather than observing it.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Which is pretty incredible.
Mm-hmm. Mira, I'd love to hear from you. You're muted.
Yeah, I guess like I really agree with this idea of kind of making the personal changes and allowing that to ripple out, or to, be an example to other people. There's that quote about, if you want peace in the world, you have to first have peace in the city. And if you want peace in the city, you have to first have peace in the home. And if you want peace in the home, you have to first have peace in the heart. Like, I agree with that very wholeheartedly. Then I also get stuck on, it's not just a problem of monkeys who all want the same thing and just don't know how yet. It's like people have so much fear and anger and identity wrapped up in doing things the way that they've been doing them that isn't working for everyone. That's like, how, like, I feel defeated sometimes when I am just trying to do my own work and I don't see those ripples at all. I don't see it affecting stuff that's, I feel like, really needs to change. And so I'm curious, Beth Ann, like, how you kind of deal with that tension.
I love that. Thank you for that question. The thing that, for me, that is very different is, yes, there's taking care of my side of the game, but it's also, I must take action about that. It's not just, oh, I see that everyone has good in them. It has to be, how might I demonstrate that in such a way that somebody else sees it's possible for them? Because I'm not special. You know what I'm saying? The good that is already present in us does not make anybody special. We're all the same. And some of us are ready and awake, and some of us are like in the darkness about that. So that it's how might you be a presence of that, because love is something in action. Love's not a feeling. Do you know how sometimes we talk about do from the heart, and be love in the world? Or it's not a feeling, it's an action. And this is how I've had to do it, especially in this last few months in which my racial journey has really shifted for me. It's like, how would the good that I really am, what would it say right now? What would it do right now? And what do I want the result to be? And the result that I want is not that I'm equally pissed as the situation is, but that I'm much more interested in, I see that we could do something very great together. And I'm inviting you to become much more interested in the great that we can do together, rather than I'm right and you're wrong. So that's kind of the way I've shifted in this last few months. Since the George Floyd thing happened, it absolutely changed my personal life, because I identify as an African American, and it was like, holy cow. And I also saw that what resided inside of me was, I don't know which was worse, that I'm Black or that I'm white. Because on one side of it, there's the privilege, and the other side of it, there's the devalue. And I'm no longer willing to stand in one or the other. It's not the way that it is needs to be. I have to stand for what it is that I'm about, and that's what's possible, and invite you into it. Because we've spent a hell of a lot of time making each other wrong. And my journey has been making myself wrong. When I first saw the George Floyd thing, what happened to me was that I saw that I was I don't like the word, but I'll use it, unconsciously beating up both sides of myself. And I don't know which I hated most, the suffering of being African American or the suffering of being white. Both sucked. And my whole life journey is about choose one or the other, as though those are the only two choices available to us. And that's what I've gotten in this last 6 months. There is another choice. So growing up looking white, it's like, okay, choose that path because there's a lot of privilege there. But it was uncomfortable because it was racist and shit that people would say in front of me. Now, I'm from New York, so there was a point in which in my heart, I'd be like, I dare you to say something. Go ahead. Go ahead. Make a racist comment so that I can just kick your ass. You see, which at that time didn't dawn on me. Every time I kicked ass, I was proving that the person was right, that I'm violent, you see. And then there was the discomfort in being in the white community where the bigotry was hitting all the time. And all of a sudden, it's no longer about that. It's about we have a common ground to stand on, and that's what we have to build from and to. And so it's wonderful. I've not felt as much freedom, growing up, especially because I grew up in the 50s, 40s and 50s and 60s. The question that people would ask, the most important question that people thought they needed to know was, what are you? I can't tell you the number of millions of times in my journey that was the most important question to people. What am I? From when I was a kid. And I am much more interested in who am I? And being that rather than the what, do you see? So it's hard because I had to find it here first so that I engage with everybody from the piece that I have from my own heart, rather than trying to impose it. It's like, I'm going to speak to, it's why I said yes to this invitation. It's like, okay, here's something I've been way out. I mean, I have never had this conversation with a group of people in my entire life. And when Jess said, how about it? I was like, are you crazy? What are you thinking? And my response was out of the piece that Amir is talking about. The answer was yes. And it's just sit down and let the good times roll and roll out of what it is you have gained. What is it that you have gained out of the experience of racism in every way? Because racism is climate, it's people, it's all of it. We're not respecting the value of of each other, nor the value of the planet. You see, we're not valuing that, and it just is so rich to start to value all of it rather than some of it. And I've only valued in my own journey some of me rather than all of me. And it's it feels very 100th monkey in here to value all of me rather than fix one side or the other. It's a huge, really huge journey because it takes everything that we have. It takes real courage, real strength, and real dedication. You cannot waver from it. You must say yes. If the most powerful word that you and I use is yes. Yes, yes, because we're always saying yes to something. And we're either saying yes to limitation or we're saying yes to possibility. Choose the one you want to stand upon. And I'm so grateful that I have come to a place in myself now where it's like, yeah, I say yes to all of me,
Yes.
to all of me. And I want the world now to say yes to what is right without it being a war.
Oh my God.
Build
Yeah.
how much I frickin' hate you. Hate, you know, like, let me pull on my minister side of this conversation. In my theological teaching, there's never an absence of light. There is no opposite to light. There is only light. And there is either bright light or dim light. And hate is the dimmest light of light. You see what I'm saying? And it's ours to increase the light rather than there's an absence of it.
Yeah.
There is no absence of it. There is no absence to your greatness anywhere, in any way. Got it?
Got it. Holy, whoa. Thank you, Beth Ann.
My joy.
Oh my God. I'm so just thank you again for saying yes to stepping into this conversation. This is so, so rich. So everyone, we're coming toward the end of our allotted time together for this.
No!
I know, time flies. So what I want to do is just and give everybody a minute to just silently reflect on what I like to call your golden nugget, like the gem of wisdom that you're going to take with you and put in your pocket and carry with you as you go forth in the world from this conversation today. So in a sentence or less, what is it that you are taking with you? And I want to invite you to put that in the chat, and we'll just hear from a few folks. And Heidi and Bev, I know I saw that your hands were up, and I'm sorry that we're not going to get to continue with whatever it is that you wanted to share, but perhaps you can find a way to weave that into your nugget for today and share it with us that way. I know we'd all love to hear what you have to say. So I'll just give you a minute and I'll stop talking so that everybody can think and look for themselves at what they're getting from this. And when you got it, folks, feel free to just start dropping it in the chat so we can harvest all of these gems of wisdom that y'all are taking with you.
And the real power of putting it in the chat is that we're not going to get to hear from everybody. We'll probably only hear from one or two people for reflections here, but I'm going to send you all the chat. We're going to send you the chat later so you can see other people's golden nuggets later when you receive the chat.
Oh, here they are, these beautiful nuggets coming in. Okay. So let's hear from someone who maybe someone who hasn't shared or hasn't spoken to the group today yet out loud that would like to share what you're taking with you.
Maybe Bev or Jordan or Lila.
Yeah.
I'll share. This is Jordan. I am just kind of being cracked open to like what it would be like for me if I really valued things like my dance practice. It doesn't feel like I'm like, what is the contribution that's making to the world? That's really just for me, right? But to be open to the fact that it does have value, even if it like is just for me, but it probably isn't. So to just really start to embrace that more and to ask for support and embracing that more, investing in that more.
Yes, please. Dance for all of us, Jordan.
Thanks.
Let's hear from one more. Someone who hasn't shared yet. Bev, do you have anything you'd like to share?
Yeah, this really resonated for me thinking about conversations I've had, especially with family members who have really kind of bad views on the world, and just thinking about the times I've, come from a place of inviting in heart and like really, versus coming from a place where I'm in argument mode and inviting in opinion. And so that really felt like something I want to bring forward, and the visual of the limitless light in all of us that is not less, it's just dimmed, feels really powerful as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Beth Ann.
Okay, one more. I can't help myself. And then we want to tell you about some cool stuff that we're doing, but this is just so gorgeous. Anyone have anything burning?
I guess this is Lila. Hi, Beth Ann. Thank you.
Hi, Lila. It's so good to see you.
I just came here to be with you. Miss you. But I guess on the theme of like the hidden things being a contribution, I've been really struggling because at the time when it feels like most critical to be changing the world in the way that it's always been in my heart to do, I've felt the most personally shut down, like pre-COVID even, and now I'm like can't even escape the smoke in Oregon from California. So it's been like a very personal, like day-to-day, moment-to-moment wellness journey, and just something about what you shared, Beth Ann, about your like personal experience, and embracing your wholeness and not being like categorized, or just like seeing that there's something that you can contribute from your particular position, is just like giving me, like lighting up that there is something in my current experience of myself and in my healing journey that could be a contribution to this moment of the world. And like that I don't need to like fix myself before I can do that.
I love you so.
Amen. Thank you. Wow. I will say, you all, this is difficult as a facilitator because I really don't want to stop. And I'm going to ask Seth now in our final minutes to pull back up some slides, because to wrap up, what we'd love to do is just share a little bit with you about what we're up to at RSC. So to invite you to continue to engage in these conversations with us, right? This is just one small piece of the conversation that we're having in the Radical Support Collective community, and there are a lot of ways that you can plug into it. So, Seth.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm sitting here just having all these thoughts and reflections, and I put some of them in the chat so you can read what's going through my head. But getting really back to the heart of the question and what's relevant to In It for the Long Haul, and this coaching group that we run pretty much every season is, I've noticed in my life, it's so much harder. It takes so much more energy to engage with what's wrong with folks, to be especially in conversations around race and climate change. And when somebody messes up, it can be so easy for me to go immediately to what is wrong with folks. And what I'm sitting here reflecting on is that the way to find fortitude to take compassionate and loving action is by taking compassionate and loving action. It actually becomes more easeful to engage with folks when we are practiced at that. And so the invitation I want to extend to y'all is, I run this, we as a team tend to run these coaching groups. I'm running it, just me this term, starting from October going through January. It's for change makers, activists who are really, one of the conversations I most love to have with this group is how do we engage with our work in a compassionate way, not just to other people, but also to ourselves? How do we have some skills to be consistently grounded in our purpose, grounded in our values, grounded in who we are, such that we can orient to our work with that level of clarity and just so much more easily be able to bring that compassion to our activism, to our organizing work, such that we can stay in it for the long haul. So we're not burning out, so that we are not orienting to our work with that urgency, crisis mindset, but orienting to it from a place of compassion, creativity. So if you are interested at all in playing with some other change makers and learning the skills and practicing the skills and having a really rad community of support to do that work, please come join us in it for the long haul. Starts in October. We'll send you some details in the follow-up, but put it in the chat if that's even just the slightest bit interest to you. And if you're familiar with the coaching tools, if any of you are coaches, I'm going to do an advanced level coaching group that is perfect for you, where we just get to practice these tools in real life scenarios. So by all means, this is for anybody here. Come play with us, and I'll pass it off to back to Jess to share another program.
Awesome. So guys, we've just been jamming so hard because there's so many juicy things to explore with you all. So I'm running a program that's starting at the end of this month called We Are the Great Turning. And if you're not familiar with the framework of the Great Turning, it's the name that my teacher, Joanna Macy, who's a Buddhist scholar and systems thinker, uses for what we might also call the revolution or the just transition, the transition from a dominance-based industrial growth society to one that is life-sustaining and just. And this program is 12 weeks. We're meeting every week, and we're going to alternate between sessions. So we're going to be doing group coaching, just like what Seth's doing, where we're really looking at, for you, what does it mean to live the great turning? Like we were saying before, not waiting till later, not waiting for someone else to come, right? Not waiting for this transition to just appear in the world, but to live it with our lives now. And this really came from me seeing that, like, I was grieving that the great turning was going to happen after I was probably dead, and then had a revelation that I could live it now. And I'm just thrilled to invite people who are also interested in that question of what does that really look like for me in the midst of what's happening in our world now, to live that transition with the way that I live my life. So we'll be doing coaching on that. We'll be doing practices from the work that we connect, which is Joanna Macy's work, to nourish and fortify ourselves and connect with one another. And I think it's going to be really beautiful. And it starts at the end of this month. So similarly, if you are interested in joining me for that or learning a little bit more, you can go to the website, which Seth's going to put in the chat because it's blocked off on the screen. And you can also just let me know in the chat and I'll reach out to you.
Great.
Great. And so Seth, Jess, and I, if you haven't noticed yet, are all certified coaches, and we work with clients one-on-one. We work with folks just like you. And I know there are so many incredible coaches also on this call. You've probably experienced a bit today of what we're about and see our orientation to the world. And this is this vision of a more just world, or of the great turning, is what called each of us to be coaches so that we can support you to be resilient and creative and creating extraordinary results in your life around the world you want to see, even as we experience this incredible uncertainty of this moment, and yeah, in all that we're up to. So if you're interested in learning about working with myself or Seth or Jess, you can find us at radicalsupport.org and connect with us.
Please, please. We'd love to connect with you further.
And I'll just go ahead and do this. So great, you joined us for our first Radical Support Circle in this format. And thank you, Beth Ann, for kicking us off in the best way I could even imagine. I have not even begun to like sink into what I've like taken away from today. But we have some amazing friends and guests coming up as well. So September 18th, we have Zotobi joining us, who Beth Ann mentioned earlier today, looking at how do we stay present to possibility when it feels like everything is falling apart. October 2nd, we'll be looking at election engagement and being present while doing urgent work, which the election can absolutely feel that way, with Daniel Jubileer, and October 9th with Yi Zhang, really tapping into our creativity to bring about this transformation. So join us, we'd love to have you. And then, yeah. And we value this program at $50. Any amount keeps this going. 25% of all donations today will go to the NAACP per Beth Ann's choosing. We ask our guests to give us a cause or an organization they want to donate to. So please, if you haven't yet, or if you already have and you'd like to donate again, you can do so on Venmo at Radical Support, or on PayPal, paypal.me/Radical Support. And this will be in the follow-up email, so you can see it again. But please contribute what you're able. Any amount really does help. Next slide. And finally, thank you again for being here with us. We'd love your feedback. You can see that we are doing this program in an ongoing manner, and we've got many other programs, and your feedback helps us give you the best opportunity to live your life in service of your vision. So give us your feedback on how today was for you, what you loved, what you'd change. We do read all of it, so please, the link is in the chat box and will be in the follow-up email.
May I say something very quickly there, Anastasia? If
Sure.
everybody would just take a second now to open that link in your browser so that it is up, and right after we hop off, I promise you the forum will take you 2 to 3 minutes. And one of the questions we'd love to hear is, what questions do you have that you would love to have us dig in on a Radical Support Circle? And if you have suggestions for guests, we would love to hear that from you. So please open that now, just so you have it open.
Yay. Perfect. Okay, y'all. Thanks for sticking with us. I know we're just a minute past the time we promised to wrap up. And if you're willing to stay with us for another moment. So we started a tradition 2 years ago when we started running public programs with Radical Support Collective to always end with a poem, because beauty. Because we love beauty. And today I want to wrap us up with a poem that comes from this book, Devotions by Mary Oliver, whose birthday was yesterday. So in honor of the poet who taught me that I love poetry, and the exploration of big questions, I want to read you a poem called Mysteries, Yes. And we'll send this out to you also in the wrap-up email so that you can have it if it resonates with you. Truly, we live with mysteries too marvelous to be understood. How grass can be nourishing in the mouths of lambs. How rivers and stones are forever in allegiance with gravity, while we ourselves dream of rising. How 2 hands touch and the bonds will never be broken. How people come from delight or the scars of damage to the comfort of a poem. Let me keep my distance always from those who think they have the answers. Let me keep company always with those who say, look, and laugh in astonishment and bow their heads.
Thanks, Jess. Perfect.
Thank you all. Thank you for this. This has been really beautiful. We hope to see you again soon.
Thank you.
Ciao.
Thank you, everybody.